Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is Wednesday, October 18th. This is the virtual edition because we have something very important going on in our normal studio, the ThriveWell phone bank, trying to raise money for breast cancer and cancer patients around our area. So obviously don't like not being in there, but I'd rather not be in there and have this going on. So because obviously raising a lot of money for a good cause. But Zack also kind enough to join us from Globe Life Field, getting ready for Game 3 in Arlington.
Yeah. Should be a good one tonight. The roof is closed. I'll see if I can
Let's
everybody.
See the view.
There we go.
All right.
This is the vantage point. Roof is already closed. It's a nice day, a little windy outside, but we are getting set. We're about, I guess, a little less than 6 hours away now, but player interviews are going to be getting started here in a little more than an hour. So should be a fun Game 3.
Yeah. Do those side windows over there on the left side, do they open?
They do not to my knowledge. Out there in left field, those are static. You know, they stay still and everything. I think the only thing that moves is this roof.
Gotcha. But in Chase Field in Arizona and Phoenix, they have those kind of windows on the left side over left field that open. They like rotate like that, so it allows air in. So I didn't
get a little bit of breeze in. Yeah, that would be nice. So they have that at Jerry World too, where it's like, I guess you can keep the roof closed, but then you can open up like the ends on either side, and because it's like sort of an east-west orientation, you get some breeze that way too.
Right. Well, I know you have player interviews to go do, so let's get started. Just got to start with the number game as we usually do. It's episode 38, which means who comes to mind? There's really not a lot of good 38s. But speaking of the Diamondbacks, Curt Schilling came into mind instantly for me. I'm a Red Sox fan, the Bloody Sock. He shows up big a lot of times in this time of year. So
in Game 6, yeah. I can't think of really any other 38s really. That's kind of an odd. It's kind of an odd number.
Yeah, at least for 39, we'll have like Larry Zonka. I asked Chuck who his 38 was just while I was downstairs, and he said Tremont Williams, obviously the Packer fan saying Tremont Williams, the corner.
Sure. Yeah, he has that one ready.
Yeah, and then Don came up with a name that I had never heard of, so as he usually does. But let's get started on the rundown here. This week got a great week 8 that we just had. Speaking of, and we had the game of the year so far for high school football between Johnson and Reagan. So we'll recap that a little bit. We'll go through a pretty loaded week 9 slate as well. Got a lot of good games on the slate this weekend and this week for week 9. We'll go through TNL top 10, 5A, 6A, go through sub TNL top 10 for 1A and 4A, and then preview a de facto playoff game this week on TNL, which is Clark and Roosevelt. So quickly, let's just recap the big week 8 games. Obviously, it starts and ends with Reagan and Johnson. Reagan was up 27-13. Johnson comes storming back, ties the game at 27. Cole Pryor gets in for his 3rd touchdown, and then Reagan basically blocks a kick and Cole Pryor gets his 4th touchdown, and ball game curtains after that. So what did you think of the performance that Reagan turned in on Friday night?
Just really strong. And I think Coach Hamilton kind of said it best afterward. It's just, hey, we just need to give it to our workhorse and let them eat. And that's what they did. I was glad to see that it's a fourth quarter. It was a fourth quarter game, tight. It was tied 27 with maybe 5 minutes left or something like that. The final score, it's like, oh, Reagan kind of had it. Well, it was a close game late. And I think really, you would hope that these two, I think the way how the districts are all laid out in playoff seating, you would wish that these two could meet each other again in the playoffs, because man, what a great game would that be. But Johnson, unfortunately they hit a bump in the road, but man, they'll bounce back, I'm sure. But what a win for Reagan again, second straight year winning this game, and it sets them up to, kind of close out and win District 28 6A again.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that it's a 48-minute game. I mean, the game was so much closer than the final score indicates, just because of the blocked punt that happened with like
Right.
3.5 minutes left, and then Cole Pryor gets his 4th touchdown. But you look at that team in Reagan and the weapons that they have with Brad Jackson at quarterback and Cole Pryor at running back, and then Caleb Capuccio, who we haven't even said, like he was kind of not absent, but he was kind of on the back burner because Cole Pryor had such a huge day. But that game could have gone either way. And then in the final minutes, Reagan kind of pulls out what is going to be the strongest win on their schedule.
Yeah. And you mentioned all the playmakers for Reagan. It's almost the same case for Johnson, because you got Ty Hawkins at quarterback, they got Bubba Johnson at running back, and they've got King Johnson at wide receiver. So there's a set of triplets over there too for Johnson. So again, it's like I'm hoping that at some point, if the schedules can align or the playoff seeding works out, it's like these two can meet again for a bi-district round or an area round or something like that. Because man, that game in the playoffs, it would be spectacular.
Yeah, we do the TNL top 10 here, which we'll go over in a second. I almost wanted to just leave Johnson at 2, just because like they showed up so well, and like dropping them almost feels criminal. But I mean, obviously there's a lot of good teams in our area. But Johnson shouldn't hang their heads on that. TP Miller, his squad is going to be ready in the playoffs no matter what. The other one which was kind of impressive as well, is Alamo Heights defeated Harlandale 60-34. That's Harlandale's probably the second best team in that division. That was the 3rd straight week. Besides Burbank, Sam Houston, all of them kind of vying for second place. Harlandale was their 3rd straight undefeated opponent that Alamo Heights has knocked off, and did so again in convincing fashion. You were there at that one in the beginning when it was tight. What did you see?
It was really, I mean, the Indians, they kind of kept it a close game. It was only 5 points. Alamo Heights ahead 25-20 at the half. And then, of course, I think Alamo Heights' depth came into play in the second half, where they were just able to kind of, run away with it a little bit. But give Harlandale a lot of credit, because they took some punches, but they were giving them right back to the Mules. So, that might be a game where, you didn't come away with the win, but it's like, hey, we can hang with a team like as stacked as Alamo Heights.
Yeah, and you've been talking about that all year, how they'll play, their division might not be, or their district might not be the best, but what the good part about that is that they get the back end of their roster playing time, and the depth really shows when you pull away from teams in the second half like that. Maybe it's a 5-point game at half, but while they're getting tired, you're switching out your offensive line, your defensive line, your linebackers, getting everyone a blow here and there. And it just shows in the games like that.
Right. And Alamo Heights, there's a couple of guys at a couple of key spots where there's just a size disadvantage. Michael Terry III, he walked past me on a play one time, and it's just like, this dude looks like a college player. Like, oh my gosh. And then there's another, I'm not sure exactly what position, because it looks like he could be like an H-back or a tight end, where he's really flexible, but he's a tall dude as well. His number escapes me at the moment, but it's somewhere in the 80s. But again, it's just like they have some athletes where it's just the size disadvantage was apparent. But I credit Harlandale for sticking with them for a half, because they're a tough-nosed football team, and that if they still have Burbank on their schedule, and of course McCollum at the end of the year, those are 2 big games where we're going to find out a lot about the Harlandale Indians.
Yeah, I mean, and they have a good roster as well. They have the San Antonio Sports All-Star Jacob Sacedo, a quarterback who Chuck just loves. He is in love with that kid because of his frame and how well he slings the ball. Zion Molina at running back. I mean, they have a really good team, but Alamo Heights is just in a class of their own when it comes to that district, and really I mean, that's why they're so high on our top 10. So the other great game and surprising game when it comes to week 8 is Wagner defeating Bernie Champion. I think we were all kind of sitting in the newsroom and down there in sports putting scores in and whatnot, and we were like, wait a second, what? Wagner beat Bernie Champion convincingly 34-21 on knocking the Chargers from the reign of the undefeated. And then we started digging into the stats and all that stuff, and Wagner had 473 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns on the ground. Like, it's unbelievable what they did to that defense.
And that's a Wagner game for you, where just their offense kind of running that modified T, the triple option, you know, they can control a game if their running game is on point, which it was. Obviously, just when you look at the stats, obviously we weren't able to get somebody up that game with everything else going on this past week. But a real big game for Wagner, and it's credit to them. I mean, there's a ton of athletes out there in Wagner because they're in that Judson and Veterans Memorial, kind of area and district, because they all split off and all that. But Wagner's going to be a good team and a force to be reckoned with if you don't play assignment football against that rushing attack.
Yeah, I think when Wagner beat Liberty Hill week 1, we were all like, "Oh, watch out!" And then they kind of didn't, not that they fell off, but they lost a couple of games and kind of fell off a little bit. But then they come back and have this game where they beat the previously undefeated Bernie Champion Chargers, and it's just like, yeah, still a damn good team. So.
And I just see I was looking to see who they had real quick. Buda Hayes, a team that they should beat, but again, it's like if a team can be defensively sound and stick with their assignments, it can get close for Wagner, but they should tack on another win this week for the T-Birds.
Yeah, you got to watch your keys and all that stuff. If you're not in your gaps defensively, then they're going to run all over you, and they prove that they're going to do that to a lot of good teams. So let's get to the TNL top 10 real quick. Reagan obviously stays at number 1, 7-0, 5-0 in district. They beat Johnson. Won't spend too much more time on that game. Their next game's against Churchill on Friday, and they only have 3 left. It's kind of weird. We're already this far into the high school football season, but we only have 2 TNL games left this week and then in 2 weeks. So they play Churchill, Roosevelt, Brandeis. So it's shaping up to where they're going to have an undefeated go and undefeated regular season there.
Yeah. Churchill's going to give you a hard fought game. That's kind of the characteristic of a Ron Harris team. And then Roosevelt might be interesting too. Roosevelt, of course, they're on TNL this week. So you'll get to see Brennan Carroll up close and everything. If Brennan Carroll gets going, and there's times where they can do play action and sneak a receiver behind a defense, that might be one that Reagan needs to watch as well. And then closing up with Brandeis again, and another team that's going to be in the playoff mix. So they may already have spots locked up, but again, they're going to want to get some momentum going into that first playoff game.
Right, and Reagan still needs to run the table. I mean, if they slip up, Johnson's going to be there to try and take that district title away from them, even though they do have the tiebreaker now with the head-to-head.
Head-to-head, right.
So 2 in our TNL top 10 was Steele. They move up to number 2 this week because Johnson fell down a little bit. So Steele 6-1, 2-0 in district. They beat San Marcos 45-6. Their running back, Jonathan Hatton, who is committed verbally, I believe, to your Sooners.
Yes, sir. That's right. We like it.
Well, you must like seeing him run for 183 and 3 scores then, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if I have it right, he's just a sophomore, correct? Yeah. I mean, so if he's already, putting up these kind of numbers, he just think a couple more years of getting bigger, faster, and stronger. I mean, goodness, that's just something that's going to be fun to watch for us covering the high school football scene in San Antonio for the next couple of years. So,
yeah, Coach Venables is getting them early.
Well, and I'm not going to get too into it but I just have seen. Because yes, they are my school; it's my alma mater. But I've seen from recruits and stuff like that, just the culture shift. And with Venables being there, they've said that the culture is entirely different with Coach Venables there. And to hear that from recruits and having people commit that early, that's just tells you the kind of job that he's doing and just what could potentially be Oklahoma in the next couple of years if everything keeps going the way it is.
It also tells you the kind of athletes that Coach Science has at Steele. And
it's
just ridiculous.
It's one of the factories. Yeah. Like Steele, Judson. I mean, it's just, there's athletes all over the field who can play ball.
Yeah, damn right there is. So their next game is going to be at East Central Thursday, 7 o'clock. They wrap up with East Central, and then next week is the big one against Judson, that the rivalry game that I'm sure we will be at, and everyone around South Texas will be at, because that's always the game that's circled on everyone's calendar. And then they close at Clemens, who had an impressive win against Judson last week on TNL. That game was something I've never seen before.
It started off pretty crazy, right?
45 we haven't even done the first sideline interview yet, and already there's 3 touchdowns on the board in the first 45 seconds. First opening kickoff, for whoever missed it, opening kickoff runs back, the ensuing kickoff runs back by Judson, and then the next kickoff goes to about the 30, and Clemens goes over the top on their first offensive play for an 80 or a 70-80 yard score. So it was something I've never seen before, and I haven't actually met anybody yet who has said that they've seen something like that. So it was crazy.
I think safe to say that was probably a first.
Yeah, I went over to Vinny over at one of the other stations here, and I was just like, so there's your highlights. You getting out of here or what? So third on the TNL top 10 is Harlan. They had their bye week last week. I believe they're 8-0, 6-0 in district. They've only got 2 games left. They're the only Class A 6A team in the state that is 8-0. So kind of impressive from Coach Salas over there and the Harlan Hawks. But they have a huge game this week against the also undefeated J Mustangs.
Yeah. First place on the line for District 29 6A. And, Harlan played Holmes this past week. Remember going out there and shooting that game. And, it was Noah. There were a few turnovers early, which was a bit uncharacteristic. So they're definitely going to have to watch that. And I think whoever wins the turnover battle between them and Jay is going to win that football game. And Jay, they have a defense that they're a bunch of ball hawks. They have picked off something crazy, like, somewhere north of like 15 interceptions this season already. The Jay Mustangs have. So Noah Ferris, ball security is big. They're going to have to, make every possession count, because Jay, with their rushing attack, they can control the time and keep the Hawks offense off the field.
Yeah, and that Hawks offense is potent, and it's something that they can score in 10 seconds with Noah Ferris at quarterback. And so seeing how Jay deals with that is going to be something to watch that entire day. But I mean, you can't ask for anything better than on a Saturday evening, John Jay at Ferris against Harlan with basically the title on the line.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
That's a hell of a district to go 8-0 in too. Like, you got Brennan in that district. They had a hard fought battle against Soto 2 weeks ago, and it's just like every week everyone's giving you their best, and then you end up 8-0 with Jay and Taft to go, and 2 wins away from 1, a district title, and 2, an undefeated season.
And it's a tough test for them too, with Taft coming up, because Taft, they're only 1 loss in the district and everything, and Coach Stade, he's punching all the right buttons right now. And Johnny Lott, they've got a quarterback there who has been in that system and playing the past couple of years. So Taft, look out for Taft too.
Yep. Number 4 in our TNL top 10 is Smithson Valley. They're 6-1, 4-0 in district. Their only loss came by 3 points in the opening game of the season to Reagan. So it's like your only slip up is to the best team in our area right now. So it's kind of impressive what they're doing up there. Smithson Valley, as always, they beat MacArthur this past weekend 62-0. They haven't allowed a point in the last 6 quarters that they've played. So very impressive for them.
It is, and they've got a good test. Birdie Champion going to their place to face the Chargers, and the Chargers are going to be looking to bounce back after, obviously taking their first loss of the season. So that one's going to be a real interesting one as well, to see who comes out on top, because both teams, fighting and scratching to get the momentum going these last few weeks.
Yeah, we have so many great games this week. It's just like title games right everywhere. It's just ridiculous, because that's basically a title game in there for that district right there. So that game's Friday night, 7:00. They being Smithson Valley, they have a Burning Champion, then Buda Hayes, and then Seguin to wrap up the season. So definitely their toughest test left is going to be this week. Fifth ranked team for us is Alamo Heights. They're 7-0, 6-0 in district. Already talked about them a little bit. Colin Ernst went for 6 touchdowns this past week. They have Edison coming up, so expect them to get to 8-0, 7-0 in district. And then last off, they have Lanier and Sam Houston. That Sam Houston game is going to be interesting because that's one of the teams that's fighting for that second seed in that district.
Yeah, and Sam Houston, I know they've been on TNL earlier this season. They've got some playmakers, Jeremiah Spitia, Jaden Cervantes, and of course Amir Calhoun, a quarterback, kind of directing it all. But I think there's been several games that we've been to where it's like either Spitia or Cervantes. They make a special teams play, and it's huge. So it's that's one that Alamo Heights. It's like that might be a game where it's like they're going to get a good test for all 4 quarters, and they can really kind of see what kind of measuring stick they have going into the playoffs.
There's a lot of undefeated teams that we have in this TNL top 10 who are going to be tested in the next 3 weeks to try and finish that off. So, sixth up is Johnson. They dropped from 6-2 because of that loss to Reagan. Their next game is Marshall, Saturday, 2:00 at Heroes. Last 3 games of the season for them: Marshall, Lee, Madison. I would expect them to win those games. However, that district, everyone can kind of punch each other in the mouth a little bit. So they'll be tested in at least one of those games, if not 2.
Yeah, and look for Ty Hawkins to kind of rally the troops and get them back on the right track and everything. And as you mentioned, I think TP Miller will recognize that it's like, hey, this is our chance to get back on the right track these final 3 weeks, get feeling good about ourselves again. So then that way it's like come playoff time, it's like we're playing our best football.
Exactly. The next 3 weeks are basically about getting right and getting ready for the playoffs for them because they're already in. They've already clinched the playoff spot in that district, and they got to get right in the last 3 weeks, finish up 9-1, 7-1 in district, and roll right in. So our 7th ranked team is John Jay. They're 7-0, 5-0 in district. This is the best start they've had since 2003 when they started 9-0. They got to win this week to try and break that record that they have of 9-0 in 2003. Their last 3 games they have are Harlan, Taft, and Brennan. So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's those are all 3 going to be tough games, hard fought games. And I can't wait for the one on Saturday. I unfortunately won't be able to stay there for all of it. I wish I could.
Right.
I'll get to maybe shoot a little bit of it. But yeah, what a game that'll be. And then, we'll really get to see what this John Jay football team is made of these last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I can't get enough of Jackson Gutierrez. So I'm going to be definitely tuning in to the 9 and the 10 o'clock just to see what highlights he got.
Yeah, he's a hard-nosed runner, and from what I believe, just going off his social media and stuff, but committed to Navy where they like to run the football. So that's definitely a perfect fit for him. And it's not sure Jackson runs the ball great, but also too Jack Moda, he's a guy who can pound the rock too. And it's really fun to see those guys just kind of they run that option or read option, whatever it is, and they can roll it up on the ground.
Absolutely right. They can. 8th, we have Southside. They're 7-1, 6-0 in district. They defeated Southwest Legacy last week, 36-0. They allowed just 94 yards in that win against Southwest Legacy at Southwest Legacy. So impressive win for them. They've won 7 in a row now after that opening loss. So great season for them, no matter what. But being undefeated in that district is something that they should be proud of. They should be proud of being undefeated in that district as far as they've come.
Yeah, good head of steam for the Cardinals. And I think, they kind of had a similar run last year, if memory serves, where, it's like they won 6 or 7 games in a row, kind of right maybe at the halfway point or in the middle of the season. That's when their streak started. And they have a history of doing this, it seems like. So I look for them to keep that streak rolling.
9th up, we got Brennan, who's breaking their way back into the TNL top 10. They defeated Stevens 49-7. their defense been tough once again. They held Stevens to 138 total yards, limited Warren 2 weeks ago to 115 total yards. So, I mean, their defense is finally starting to click. Their offense is finally starting to click. You knew that Coach Baser was going to get those boys right, and it seems like he's done it already.
Yeah, and really, you can look back and it's just them playing steel to start off the season. It's just like, okay, yeah, this is the kind of competition we're used to playing at and stuff. And it's a young team this year. So it's like now you really see that growth over these past 7 weeks that they've had. And it's like they're playing all the same guys too. So they've been really lucky with no injuries, and hopefully everything continues on that front. But yeah, again, we kind of talked about it earlier. They've got a couple games on their schedule this week, and of course the last one, where I think those are some really good tests for them, and they'll really get to see, okay, yeah, what kind of football team are we?
I knew I was going to do that at some point. Coach Baser is going to get his guys right, and that no matter what, like their two losses this season are to Steele and to Harlan. Like if you're going to lose to two teams and you lose to Steele and Harlan, that's nothing to shake your head at. I mean, those are two great teams, and obviously being 2 and 3 in our team all top 10. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at.
And that Harlan game was close.
Harlan
they
were winning.
Come back. Yeah.
They were winning that game the entire time until like the last 3 minutes.
So maybe that was the game where it's just like, hey, okay, other teams may be more experienced, but it's like we can hang with these, older, more experienced teams.
And then they're playing Soto this week, which just took just took Harlan to double overtime 2 weeks ago. So it's just like, Soto and Coach Morales, who we talk about every week, it seems like, is going to give them a hard fought game and might even win that one. So
yeah, and Sotomayor has kind of hit a bit of a skid real quick, and they're still a young team, second year of varsity football. But as you kind of mentioned, Coach Morales is kind of wiped the slate clean, and it's like, all right, hey, we still have a shot and an opportunity to make the playoffs for the first time in program history. So, that's a big motivation for that squad.
Absolutely. And then the last team in the TNL top 10 is Piper. They're 6-1, 3-0 in district. They beat Cedar Creek 46-10. Last week, they got a 5-game win streak going on right now. They're averaging almost 51 points in their 3 district wins. They got a potent offense, and they're going to have to pony up on defense this week as well, because apparently rumor has it that Ohio State commit James Peoples is going to be playing his first game of the season for Veterans Memorial.
Okay, well, that'll be something. Gang tackling will be the order of the day for the Piper Warriors, because you will need to have 2, 3, 4 guys, help wrap him up. So rallying to the football there. And Piper's got some tests too. I see here, it's Lockhart and Liberty Hill. Lockhart, not too much known about them. I know it's kind of been an up and down year for the Lions, but Liberty Hill, they can, roll points up. I think they had 80 in one game or something like that earlier this season.
Yep.
So, that's a game where it might be another offensive shootout between Piper and Liberty Hill.
Yeah, and it's a great season for Piper, who's relatively new as well. So, I mean, it's just great to see those new schools kind of hitting their stride early on and not being at the bottom of the barrel, having to build themselves back up.
Yeah, it's fun to see the parity now, because for a while it was like, okay, we expect these teams to kind of be at the top. Now a lot more are kind of, getting in contention too.
Exactly. Let's run through sub-TNL top 10 real quick. Number 1's Cuero. Number 2, Bernie. Number 3, Jordanton. Number 4, Randolph. Number 5, Bandera. Number 6, Poth. Number 7, Davenport. Number 8, Lavernia. Number 9, Hondo. And number 10, Navarro. I really need to start labeling these. I have them as A through J instead of 1 through 10. And I don't know why I do that, but it's just like the way the Google Docs works out.
It's good for, just kind of, I guess, keeping everybody on their toes.
It's week 9. I'll get it by like week 11 or something, I guess. Let's get to our TNL game of the week. So we got Clark and Roosevelt, which equates out to basically a de facto playoff game, because Clark is has 4 wins in district right now. They're 5-3. They need a win. If they get this win, basically they clinch pretty much. And then because they have their last game of the year, I mean, is Brandeis, and they only have 2 games left. They've played 8 games already. For some reason, they don't have a bye week, and they'll get a bye week. I talked to Coach Geist about that a little bit earlier today, where they don't have a bye week until they're like week 11. So they're done after Brandeis next week. So basically, he knows if they win this week, they pretty much make the playoffs. And so it's huge for them. It's huge for Roosevelt because they need 2 wins to try and make the playoffs, and they need Clark to slip up. So.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. High competition game this Thursday because, yeah, you set the table on it. Clark, they're one of the 4 teams right now. They can assure themselves of a spot just by winning this game. But Roosevelt, they have something to play for. They started out 4-0. It's been tough sledding here in the middle weeks, but it's all in front of them too, as you said. So, it's like, hey, they can help themselves out big time by getting a big win over Clark.
And I talked to Coach Carroll over at Roosevelt a little bit about this yesterday, and it's kind of cool. I asked him how interesting it was for him to coach his son, his now second son, who was also an all-star for the San Antonio Sports All-Star game. And so he says like he kind of treats Brandon Carroll, their running back, as like Coach Belichick teaches Tom Brady, like a little bit harder than everybody else. So it's kind of interesting, that dynamic.
Good. Yeah. Sounds like a good philosophy.
Absolutely. What do you think is going to come down to for this game? I mean, you have Clark, who has Philip Metzger at quarterback and has a really good offense when they get things going. Obviously, sometimes like the game against Reagan, who often doesn't let people get anything going, that they got shut down. But Roosevelt can ground and pound you to death.
Yeah. I think maybe this game is at the line of scrimmage. If Roosevelt can control that and get Brennan Carroll going early, not huge home runs like they need to, those will happen here and there. But if you can get 4 or 5 yards a pop, and then one play, Brennan Carroll pops one, then you get those Clark defenders creeping up a little bit, and that's when the play action pass comes into play. And I've seen Roosevelt be effective at that when that ground game is going. So I think it really comes down to the line of scrimmage. If whoever wins that battle, that's where I think this one kind of gets decided.
Well, let's get to the interviews real quick. Get to Coach Matthew Carroll over at Roosevelt first, and then you'll hear from Coach J.L. Geist from Clark. So we'll get that, and then we'll come back and wrap up.
All right, well, lucky enough to be joined by Coach Carroll. Coach, you are having a heck of a year so far, 4-3 so far. What are you thinking of this year as opposed to years past?
I mean, it's times, as you go, in and year out, it's just kind of, just the role of kids coming through, and we're at a high point right now. I feel like within our program, and have established ourselves a little bit, and what our expectations are and what we're looking for. Starting from our feeder schools coming through right now, and right now we feel like we got a pretty good solid pipeline, and kids are just kind of bought in, and things are working the way we need them to work.
Coach, I wanted to ask, you were talking a lot about those feeder schools and kind of building that pipeline up. When you got there, that wasn't really happening too much in the early 2010s or the early aughts, I guess is what they're called. But how has that been, that focus of yours in like working on those feeder schools, making sure you're getting that pipeline of kids to your school? How has that helped you kind of go from where you were to where you guys are now?
Yeah, man, I think with any place, it's a tremendous help. I think all of us high school coaches know that a huge amount of our success is going to come from what's happening in our feeder schools. And one of the things when, I guess, 12 years back, coming back to Roosevelt and getting the job, was one of the things I thought is that we've got to get into our feeder schools. We have to start building those bonds, because we're in a world now too where, there's lots of things going on where kids are leaving and going different places, and parents are moving kids and different things. And, that's as big of a tie-in into a community as anything. And so a big part of that absence with kids is no connection or relationships with our high schools. And so we wanted to make that a main focal point, that we really got down into our feeder schools, got to know our kids before they get to Roosevelt High School. Between our 2 schools, between Kruger and Ed White, I think over the years past, a big part of what we've seen in success is because they're having success at their levels and getting the right coaches in down there that can kind of, steer the program down there to what we got coming up up here when they get here and keeping expectations the same. And we've had two great staffs that we've established at both places and doing a good job of funneling the kids to Roosevelt High School and keeping the kids that are supposed to be here. And those kind of things play hand in hand.
Has it also helped you guys kind of build a sense of community around your school? Like you're having people that believe in you from elementary school up all the way until they're seniors in high school. Has that helped you guys at all as well?
Oh, for sure. With the community involvement, and that's something just from our district as a whole, big emphasis on community support and different things, community outreach things that we have, whether it's visiting the middle schools or the elementary schools and opening doors for kids. I mean, just all kinds of things that really just tie into this entire community. And I feel like here at Roosevelt, and I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this community for a long time and getting able to see ex-players who are now parents to their current kids or vice versa, and just kind of, seeing that process take place. I mean, I think the community involvement here at Roosevelt and what we do, I think the community has grown tight together, and it's kind of a deal with it. They know us very well and we know them well. And it's kind of an open door type thing with our parents and our community to support. It's our kids that have went on to leave Roosevelt to go do great things, who give back to Roosevelt, who come back to Roosevelt. Many of our kids and athletes that leave and come back and pour back into the community. Our coaching staff, I've been able to establish a coaching staff over the last several years filled with ex-Roosevelt high school athletes that I've had an opportunity to coach in the past that have went through these hallways here, who are now coaching here at this school across the board in all of our different sports that, just instilled a sense of pride in our kids.
And Coach, I wanted to ask, you were around in '95 when, as an assistant coach, right? When Roosevelt won the state championship.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How did that help you kind of know what you were getting yourself into almost when you came back as the head coach in 13, I believe? How did that kind of all kind of help you gel with the community, knowing kind of what you had to do, the people you were dealing with, all those things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it was always a dream, to be here. I was here for 11 years that first go around, starting with that championship year. And you really get to experience and see that, everybody wants to win a championship. Everybody. That's part of why we do this. But being a part of that year, you get to see all it takes to win a championship. And it's not easy. There's a lot that has to go and play that has nothing to do with football. But a lot of things have to work out. And so you're intertwined in a community there after being around for such a long time. And then obviously was, a dream to be able to come back and lead a program that I've been a part of for so long as an assistant. And then to start being able to build something based off of old players and things like that we can assemble a staff with. And eventually, I'd be lying if I say that's still not a goal. Like, you want to win a championship, you want to, put another banner on the wall and be a part of it and just bring that community together. And you see what that does for a school, a community. And obviously we want to be able to do the same thing and, returning here in 13 or whatever, and having a connection with not just the staff and faculty that was here, but having a connection with the now new parents and that were old players and things like that. So you feel like you have a pretty good relationship and tie-in with the community.
Yeah, truly a family affair over there at Roosevelt, and even more so this year with you coaching your son. How is that for you, having to coach your son his senior year there at Roosevelt, and you guys having the success that you have had this year?
Obviously, it's special. I mean, I think in any case, any coach will tell you having the opportunity to coach your own son, is a special deal. And I'm fortunate because it's the second go around that I get to do it. And just like the first time, the second time is, I tell people all the time, it's something I would never trade. It has its obstacles, it has its, issues, but on the other side of it, the reward from it is, exciting, and so I'm excited for him, excited for our football team and the success that we're having, and we still got plenty of work to do. And excited for him and the success that he's having to kind of design his future and what it is that he wants to do after high school. But, it's great. I mean, it's really a lot of credit goes to him because it's what I do. But as a kid, I mean, you have to balance all those, between it's dad, it's coach, it's your peers, it's what your peers think, the pressure, all the things that come with being the coach's kid, and you having to navigate through those things. And he's done a really good job of over the last 4 years or so navigating through that and finding his place and finding that happy spot between all of those different things. And at the same time, be a leader for our football team, a team captain, and then have the success that we have, and spread credit and do obviously offensive line and those guys going on, but just humbled kid who understands the whole process, and give credit where credit is due, and that's huge. I mean, kids read a lot off of that because obviously they get to see the role of a father and son, not just a coach and a player, and how that works out and how that lines out.
Coach, we're kind of seeing it on a national stage right now with Colorado and Dion and his son and all that stuff. What is that? How do you separate that? How do you separate when you're a coach and when you're a dad on the football field and before a game and after a game and consoling and, kind of being both, wearing both of those hats?
Yeah, I tell you, it's not easy, and there's a fine line because he has a loyalty to the coach, he has a loyalty to the dad, he has a loyalty to his teammates. There's some things that teammate and locker room things that it's a tough space for him because not only he's a part of the team and the group, but you're also part of the dad and everything else going home. So
Right.
again, for him to navigate through those things, I mean, I know are not easy, but he manages to handle that stress between those two things and make it work. And I watch things with Deion Sanders and some of the things with his kid and stuff. I know he said at one point, and this is true, I think, of all coaches coaching their own kid. You want your kid to, you put a lot of pressure on your kid because you want him to work that much harder, do things right and all those things, because he's always going to come under scrutiny as that's just because you're the head coach's kid. And so we put a lot of extra pressure on our own kids when you're coaching them. And honestly, you have to coach them harder. And the big thing with that is the kids, they understand that. They understand what that needs to look like. If I can't get on him hard in practice in front of his teammates and those kind of things and not have the right response from him that you're supposed to have, that would not be a good deal. But we're able to do that. And so his teammates are able to say, well, man, coach is all on him. That's not just a running back. That's also his son. And so others can understand and see that, there's not a free card basically because you're the head coach's kid. It actually comes with more stress, and he does a good job, like I say, of navigating that. And for me, it's a fine line. You want, throughout the course of a game, and just like you're still human like any other parent. Any injuries or things like that, you're on high alert, but yet, you also coach. And so you got to kind of handle and manage those kind of things. And so, but like I said, from the beginning, it's something I would never change. Something I would, if I do it over and over again, I would keep on doing it. It's just an experience that, one I cherish and will always remember.
Coach, this is your second one. You got any more in the pipeline, or is this last kid you got?
No. This he's the last one.
Oh man, we got a lot of all-stars in this family, man. Coach, I wanted to ask, you guys are obviously having a good season. What, for people who haven't seen the Roosevelt Rough Riders this year a lot, what makes this team a little bit different than teams you've had in the past? Who is the 2023-24 Roosevelt Rough Riders?
Well, for one, I think a lot of it has to do with how we carry ourselves. I think the character of our football team. I mean, the good teams, they're physically athletic, what you see on the field, athletic play. I mean, they're going to be good. And then we certainly got some playmakers and things like that help us be good as well. But I hope when you sit in the stand and you're watching Roosevelt, I hope people see more about the character of our football team. How our kids, care for each other, how our kids support each other. We pride ourselves in how we play for each other and what we do on and off the field. A tight group with a unity that kind of makes us really strong. And we do a lot of things, here on campus, whether it's or just throughout the season, whether it's having kids, so coaches have different position groups over at their house for different things, and kids are, like my son would have all the offensive line over for day but not before a game and different things like that to just build bonds and builds a tight unit with our team. And so I hope folks see a really tight unit that through good and bad, adversity, whatever, that we try to stay off the roller coaster and stay steady and continue to support each other and those kind of things like that. That's probably number one. And then honestly, this group that we feel pretty well rounded, offense, defense, special teams, that we feel like we have some kids in the right place, and we play really hard. And our kids really play hard until really there's just no time on the clock. That's kind of the thought. Like there's, no matter what the score is, we just try to lose scoreboard. If there's still an opportunity to play the game, we're not promised this forever. So let's use every second we have. And if there's time to play, man, let's play. And so we play really hard, and we've got some playmakers in some areas that help us out. And it's fun to have those guys, and we're fortunate to have those type guys on our team, and everybody just kind of rallies around them and try to have a little fun while we're playing Roosevelt football.
Coach, I wanted to also ask about your. It helps when you have 3 All-Stars on the team, and you guys got 3 San Antonio Sports All-Stars this year. I was lucky enough to be a part of the selection committee, and when we're going through everything, I'm like, well, we can't leave them off, can't leave him off, can't leave him off. So, we already talked about your son Brennan. Can you tell me a little bit about Jamari and Josiah as well? For people who don't know, Jamari Galloway, offensive lineman for you guys. You say on your little note that he's the leader of the team, and then Josiah Ali, the defensive lineman as well.
Yeah, Jamari, Galloway, he's one of our team captains. And again, not as much by what they say, it's an action, and he's a kid that came in and actually didn't play with us his freshman year. That was kind of the COVID year when all these guys were coming in. And then just from year in and year out, just to watch how he worked, his work ethic and what he does on and off the field, classroom, weight room, just his overall sheer understanding of the game and leadership has just expanded greatly. And so we knew coming into this year, we saw it last year, we knew coming into this year that he had an opportunity to be special. And he really is. As far as I think in our district, we're second or third in rushing yards or whatever. And a big part has to do with him and his other partners up front, but he kind of leads that group. For a kid of his size, he's very athletic, and so he runs well. And our scheme's built around a lot of linemen running. He does that very well, and he's a really good football. That I'd be shocked if he's not playing somewhere next level after this year is done with his measurements and his film and what he has going on. But a really good player, and certainly will be playing at the next level. As far as Josiah Ali goes, man, holy cow. I mean, you talk about a physical defensive player that you have to try to game around, plan around. You got to double him. I mean, those things like that. His very athletic, for a 300-pounder at his size, but his, get off and get into the ability to rush the quarterback, get to the ball carriers. Man, over the years, he's been a 3-year starter for us. It's his 3rd year. He has a few offers out there going right now, but I tell you, I don't know really across San Antonio a better defensive lineman than this kid. He has a ton of ability. What's crazy about it is I still don't think he's peaked yet. He's still got a ways to go, and but getting better every day. And he's just a force to be reckoned with, and he creates a lot of havoc up front. And, I'm anxious to see what he does post Roosevelt High School as life continues for him at the next level as well.
Coach, last question for you before I let you go here, and thank you again for the time today. You guys have 3 games left, sitting at the outside looking in right now when it comes to the playoffs. You guys got 2 teams that are ahead of you. Obviously, Reagan is the powerhouse of the district, powerhouse of our entire area. And then you have Marshall and Clark, Marshall to end the season, Clark this week. So what do you guys have to do to win at least 2 out of those 3 games, put yourselves in position to make the playoffs, as Clark's one of those teams that's right at the bottom of the playoff matchup right now?
Well, I'll start by saying this is about as tough as this district has looked in a while. I mean, it's truly really stout this year. It's certainly a thing, and as we've seen all year long, it's who shows up on Friday night, because I really believe anybody can beat anybody in this district. It's really about 7 o'clock, 7:30 kickoff when the game gets started. That's going to be decided, and we're not in the position we'd like to be in, but we still have that. The playoffs is a goal of ours, and it's truly still alive. And so we again just have to take it one game at a time and stay alive in this deal and reach our goal. And one of our official early goals from the beginning of the year, one of them, we want to win the first ball game, want to win the first district ball game, and then we want to win 6 games. We want to be a playoff team. That's kind of how our goals kind of go, and we've checked those boxes outside of winning 6 games. And so with 3 left and 4 wins, obviously that we still have that goal out there to reach, and we still have the playoffs to reach. So we got to take it one game at a time. This week is Clark, and Clark is certainly a team that's capable of beating us, and we're capable of beating them. And so this game on both ends for both teams is crucial. Like I tell our kids, we're really already in the playoffs. We've already started that process. So we've got to take care of business against a good Clark team, and then again just try to follow our goal sheets from the beginning of the year.
I mean, you're damn right about it being a tough district. I mean, you got Reagan and Johnson at the top of it, Brandeis and Clark, and then even in the middle of it, Churchill and Marshall playing better now, Madison playing better. I mean, everyone just it's a tough game every week.
For sure.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time today, and I will see you on Thursday. I'll send you an email tomorrow with the link to the podcast, all that stuff.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I could do this all day, but I'm sure both of us have other stuff to do.
I hear you.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Coach, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you.
You guys, how are the guys looking, getting ready for tomorrow?
It's been a good week of work. Doing a good job, putting everything in, getting ready to go.
For people who haven't watched a lot of Clark Cougar football, tell me a little bit about this team. What makes you guys different than other Clark teams you guys have had in the past?
I'm not sure if anything specific makes us different. I will tell you that our guys play really well as a team. We're a good teamwork kind of a team where everybody contributes and we're all bought in and guys are working well together.
Coach, since you and your staff have taken over the program, you guys have come a long way. What do you attribute that to?
It's been a process of growth with our players buying in and our community supporting us, and that combination of getting our middle school kids excited about being part of it, and getting those guys to want to come and play Clark football, and just a process of them understanding what we do schematically and buying into the pillars of our program and coming together.
It's always going to be a dogfight when you play Roosevelt and Coach Carroll over there. How are you preparing your team this week for what you know is going to be basically a de facto playoff game for you guys?
Yeah, they are well coached. They're a really good football team. Coach Carroll and his staff do a great job. We know it's going to be tough. It has been the past couple of years a tough game, and it's been a down to the last minute the past couple of years too. Our guys aren't as focused on who we have to beat each week. It's more about, okay, this is the next game. And so, yes, it's another one of those, man, this is a game that is going to determine playoffs, but they all are. And our guys know that when we get into district, it's a tough road. And especially when we get at this point in the district where we're kind of like toward the last few games on our schedule, we know that each week is an important game. We take it one game at a time. We focus on that opponent. We try to go out there and play our best and execute our game plan.
Coach, when you get to this point in the season and you guys are 5-3 overall, I believe 4-2 in district, and you have 2 games left against teams that are either in your spot or vying to get your spot. What kind of motivation is that for you as you go into trying to play Roosevelt and then Brandeis next week and to kind of finish this thing off?
Well, it's definite motivation in terms of we one of our main goals each year is to try to be one of the 4 teams. So when we get to this point where it's right there in front of us and we basically control our own destiny, if we play well and we win it, and then we move on to the next game and play well and win it, we have that chance to get what we've been working toward. And so our kids understand that. And so the motivation it's built in. It's each week we've got to have a playoff mentality because it is a game that will either get you there or keep you out.
Coach, you guys are basically like win both games and you're in, and you're one of those teams that hasn't had a bye week. Do you think that's an advantage for you to kind of take week 11 off at that point if you win these last 2 games, or is that kind of a weird scheduling snafu?
I guess it could be an advantage. It doesn't feel like one. It feels like, it's just one tough game after another. And then last year, of course, we were waiting to find out, we needed some help from somebody in that last week. So we didn't know we were in our bye week, and we didn't know if we were in or out at that point because we had to see what happened in that last week. It would be great if we go ahead and get in that position where we know we're in and we can take that week to kind of get our guys back rested and healthy and start to prep for the possible matchup. But on the other hand, we're not right now. We're just working on this game. And so it would have been nice to have a bye week to kind of catch our breath a little bit. But on, the way the schedule works, we just keep rolling. And so you don't have to worry about, losing focus or anything like that. So in that regard, I guess it's a good thing too.
Right. It's just, all right, there's another game this week. Let's keep on punching,
That's right. Yeah.
Coach, I wanted to ask about your district. You guys got Reagan and Johnson and Brandeis and an improved Churchill team, an improved Roosevelt team, a Marshall team that never gives up. I mean, all these teams that have come a long way, and it's basically a dogfight every week. How is that for you guys as you don't have a bye week and you continue to prepare every week for a tough game?
Yeah, our kids know that. They know that every week it's going to be tough. We know the quality of opponent that we have to play, and our whole thing is let's be the best we can be each game. By being the best we can be each practice, try to improve as the season goes on. I feel like we have improved as the season has gone on. We make mistakes during the course of the game. It's never going to be perfect, but we go back and we try to fix the things that we didn't do well and focus on the things that we did do well and repeat those. So, if you look at the totality of it and you just think, man, there's a lot of tough teams, it can get a little overwhelming. But if you take it literally one game and hey, let's just focus on this one and let's go get this one. We know that what's out in front of us is tough. But we just got to focus on that one game at a time and do the best we can with that one, learn the lessons from that and move on. Hey, if we get to be one of 4, I think coming through this kind of a district and going one after the other, that's a good thing because that's how it is in the playoffs. When you get to that point, it's, win in advance or winning or lose and go home. So we're used to having to play that kind of playoff mentality against good quality teams.
Yeah, essentially every week's a playoff game. So you're just like, all right, let's do it again.
Yes, sir.
Coach, I love asking coaches this every week. You guys have so many players on your team, and obviously you want to tout all of them. Can you give me 2 players on maybe offense and 2 players on defense that, kind of embody the Clark Cougar spirit, embody your program and how you coach and the identity that you want your teams to have?
Man, that's tough.
It's always a tough question.
Have me try to narrow it down to just a couple of guys because I'm going to tell you right now the guys on our varsity roster embody what we want, and I'm so proud of them. We've got a big roster. We've got a lot of seniors on our team that have been program guys that have busted their tail for 4 years now, working to be part of this program, and they give everything they have all the time and care about each other. So for me to have to point out 1 or 2 here and there, that's not fair.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
It is impossible. It's tough. I love them all, and they work their tails off for each other, and that's one of the great things about this team this year is just the way they play for each other and the way they have each other's back and that team mentality. Offensively, our quarterback, Philip Metzger, he's that kind of kid. And so I guess he kind of embodies that. He's a tough, hard-nosed football player. He cares about his team being successful. He wants to do his best for his teammates. We've got a core of receivers that get after it and will block and catch. I've got one of our receivers, Strickland. He has pancake blocks almost every week, and you don't hear that too often from receivers. But that's kind of that mentality.
I love it.
We love it too. I love that about him.
Sure, your running backs love that too.
Oh yeah. Hey, and the other receivers, you catch the ball, and you got your buddy out there that didn't catch it, but he's downfield blocking for you, and that's great. That kind of attitude. Yeah, that kind of attitude from those guys. So I hate singling out anybody, but there's a couple on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, our one of our inside linebackers, Luke Gertz, is just a hard-nosed, tough football player, and he's been on varsity for a few years now. He's a returning starter. He's one of the leaders of our defense. He's also a team captain. And he's gonna do what it takes to be successful. And he cares about his teammates. He's gonna work with them to make sure that we get our scheme the way we need it to be. On the back end, in the secondary, we got Kevin Ramon, who's another one that's been, he's been on varsity. He's been a starter. He's kind of runs the back end of it as well. It's really this is hard on me trying to just narrow it down to a couple, because I could talk about all of them that play and even the ones that are not getting as much action in the game, but are big contributors on this team and how we're doing. So,
well, I don't want to torture you anymore, Coach. I think that's enough. Thank you. I appreciate it though.
Sure.
Last two questions for you. You talked a little bit earlier about getting that community to invest in you since you became the coach, and how they've kind of embraced your coaching style and how you've created kind of the pipeline from the middle schools and the elementary schools, all that stuff. How is that a little bit? Can you just tell me a little bit about that community that has kind of built and rallied around you in the school?
Well, you know what? That's been here. That was here before I got here. The Clark tradition of supporting this community. Clark, Texas. That's who they are, and they love Clark football, and they love Clark athletics, and they want us to be good, and they care about these kids. And they've got a lot of special things that they do as part of being part of the football program that were traditions before we got here. So we embrace that. I don't know if it's the other way around. I don't know that they truly embraced the new staff. We just kind of embraced the traditions that were already here and tried to grow those. They support the kids, and that's a great thing. So, hey, we're just along for the ride as coaches.
And Coach, last question: if tomorrow night after the game the scoreboard reads Clark more than Roosevelt, and you guys have won this one, and I'm handing you the TNL trophy, and I ask you what was the key to this game, what are you going to say?
That we played as a team. That we went out there as a team and did what we needed to do as a team, one rep at a time. And that's what makes a difference.
All right, Coach. Well, I appreciate the time today, and I will come say hello on the sideline tomorrow before we kick things off.
All right. Well, thank you.
As always, can't wait for TNL. It's going to be 7:15 tomorrow night, Thursday, October 19th, on the CW35. So it'll be good to have Don, Chuck, and I back in action.
Hero Stadium.
Are you just gonna stow away and sleep at Globe Life tonight, or?
I don't know if they would let me.
I mean, maybe.
I wish. I mean, yeah, with TNL tomorrow, I'll obviously be back at the fort, holding things down. But yeah, I wish I had another day off or something, because Game 4 tomorrow, I hear Michael Young is throwing out the first pitch, and that was my idol growing up. So sad that I'm going to be missing that. But oh well, that's the way it goes. It should be a fun atmosphere out here tonight.
Yeah, real quick on the way out, who's winning tonight?
Aside
from your fandom,
right? This series is just really a toss up. I was back and forth between Texas in 6 or Houston in 7. I really think it's a 6 or 7 game series. This one is interesting just because Christian Javier, he's a guy that can go 5 or 6 innings. Scherzer is kind of like the unknown entity at this point. Like, sure, he's got the track record, he's got the experience and everything. The guy hasn't pitched in a month.
Right.
So he says he's good. He says his forearm's fine. Well, we don't really know. Only Max Scherzer knows. So, and who knows? And then you go back to last September. Houston loves playing in this ballpark. I mean, so did the Rangers. But last time Houston was here, a lot of good memories. They bashed out a ton of home runs, and that's the way Houston's been getting their offense going so far. So, if there's runners on base and Yordan Alvarez or Kyle Tucker comes up and they pop one out, it could be 2-1 by the end of the night.
I think we're going to know how this game is going to go within the first 2 innings, because if Max Scherzer has it, he'll have it. If he doesn't, he's not.
Yeah, if he settles down, if he can get through 5 innings, that is like huge for the Rangers and their pitching staff. Anything beyond that, that's gravy.
If they can win the first 5 and they can get through with a lead to the 6th inning, I think they'll probably pull it out. But it's going to come down to how Max pitches. Like if he doesn't look good, they got to yank him, and then you got to rely on that Texas Rangers bullpen, which showed a few leaks last game. So.
Yeah, I mean it's solidified a little bit more. Josh Sborz looks a lot better. Jose Leclerc, I mean, he's nailed down all of these postseason wins so far. So I think the confidence is building there. Aroldis Chapman is the question mark for me. He always,
as for everybody else,
he always will be. So, but it could be, it could be a bullpen game too, where it's like 3-3-2, and so we'll see how it all plays out tonight.
All right, Zach. Well, I appreciate you. And that's all we got for you on this edition of the High School Hype Squad on Sneakers and Cleats podcast. We'll be back on Friday, talk Wemby, Cowboys, college football, probably some baseball as well, as this game either is going to be a sweep, it's going to be 3-1, or it's going to be all evened up heading back to Houston. So we'll see how it goes. Quick reminder, you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Please download, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell them all. Give us a 5-star rating, give us some feedback. Feedback's good. We'll see you on Friday right here on Sneakers Cleats podcast, and we'll be back in the studio, so that's cool. Also, donate to Thrive Well if you are so inclined.